Pals! We have an exciting video today. All the time people will ask me, Bryson, how did you make this art? And I'll say Blender. And they'll say, okay, what about this art? And I'll say, I also use Blender for that. But the question I got all the time when I started sharing my Blender work online was, can you get Blender on an iPad? And up until very recently, the answer was no. But in recent news, the Blender Foundation has been making great strides to bring Blender 5.0 to the iPad. The source code's already floating around online, so if you have an iPad and a Mac, and you have a little bit of know-how with codecs or whatever you have to use to build that thing from source, you could build a side-loaded Blender application for your iPad right now. So for the time being, unless you know how to build applications from source and do all of that stuff and you have like the proper Apple equipment to be able to do that, you're not going to be able to use Blender on your iPad yet, but it's coming very soon. Now, most of the work that the Blender Foundation is doing right now to get Blender on mobile devices is for iPad right now, but this developer on GitHub that goes by D. Shawshank actually ported Blender to Android for ARM64 processors. So I'm actually on an Android device right now, and I got to play around with Blender on here a little bit today, and I had a lot of fun with it. It's immediately like really impressive how well it runs on here. As you'll see in a moment, it's surprisingly responsive. I'm using a program called Screen Copy to mirror my Android device to my PC right now so I can record it with OBS, but I'll show a video right now so you can see how responsive it is. And there's like so little delay between drawing with grease pencil and manipulating stuff in Android. And you even have the touch gestures to undo and redo. And I'm just super impressed with how responsive it is. And in playing around with this today, I didn't notice that it has any like extraneous battery usage. It seems to be just as performant as any other program that I might be using on my S8. I'm still pretty unfamiliar with this port of Blender, but immediately it seems like a really fun way to work with grease pencil without having to lug around a laptop and a drawing tablet. So today I'm going to put Blender to the test and see how well I can work in it on a mobile device. Obviously for me, I'm super used to working on Blender on PC with drawing tablets and having the whole keyboard and mouse set up. So I'm definitely not going to be judging this on the level of like if it would replace that workflow, because I'm too used to that. Like that's always how I'm going to be working in Blender. But if this proved to be like a cool way to do grease pencil projects and stuff while I'm like in an airport or at a cafe or something, and I didn't want to bring like a whole setup, like I think that would be really cool. So today I'm going to try to make a little piece using Blender's grease pencil as like the primary tool. I don't imagine that a lot of people that are going to be working with Blender on a tablet are necessarily using it for all of the 3D things. I think if you're trying to do 3D on a tablet, there's really great options like Nomad Sculpt. From what I've seen of other people playing around with this, it seems like it's very capable of doing all the 3D rendering and stuff. But for me, like I don't really see myself realistically using the mobile interface to create 3D work. However, being that this thing is sort of dedicated to being a drawing tablet and being really good at handling pens and sensitivity and all the things that grease pencil really thrives with, I figured today I would test it out with that as like the focus. So I've already modified my file a little bit here, and I'm just using basic like 2-finger navigation. So I can pinch my fingers to zoom in and out, and it's a little jittery, but it's a lot smoother if I'm using 2 fingers to pan the canvas around. I think for most people though, you're going to feel more comfortable using these little widgets, or I guess gizmos over here in the top right of your viewport. They give you a much smoother experience of like zooming in and out. And then if you were in 3D and you need to orbit the viewport around, you can grab this little gizmo up here. Now it's flashing a little bit, and I don't think I'm going to be able to figure out a way to turn that off. So flash warning for the rest of the video. I did reduce the passer part out on the viewport. So usually there's like a little black box around the main camera, but that was just flickering like really bad, so I went ahead and disabled that. But as for like the flickering on the gizmos and stuff, that's just going to be happening pretty much the whole time that I'm interacting with the canvas. So apologies for anyone that is sensitive to flashing and things like that. Another modification to my project so far has been that I've done a bit to manipulate the stroke post-processing. I've generally found that while working on devices that have lower memory, it's good to simplify your grease pencil strokes. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a lot of vertices, and those are all taking up memory. And if you're making a piece that is primarily made up of grease pencil, if you're not optimizing your strokes, you could end up with a really laggy project. And so I just want to kind of prevent that before we get to that point. So I went ahead and turned on some post-processing to smooth my strokes a little bit. And then I'm also simplifying them by, I guess 5% is seems like what it's doing. You can, if you like look really close, you can see that we kind of end up with some pretty jagged little strokes every now and then. So that's kind of the result of that simplification. But I don't think it'll be too bad that, you know, we won't be able to work with it. Now I'm actually going to go up to our world properties here so that I can set the background of our canvas a little bit darker. Well, I guess actually we'll leave it white there, and then I'm just going to turn it down a little bit in brightness because personally I don't like working on like an all white canvas if it's going to be blasting my eyes the whole time. I'm also going to edit the ratio if I can get to scroll on this. Yeah. So if you like hold your finger for a second, you can kind of activate a scrolling a feature of like whatever viewport you hold your finger on. I think it works for yeah, it works for like even just orbiting the camera in the main viewport, but it's going to be pretty necessary for dragging these menus around. You hold your finger for about 2 seconds and then it lets you drag whatever window you're hovering over to move it wherever you need to. Another modification I've done here is that I've removed the outliner as like the main window up here so that I can have a second properties panel so that I can have my layers up here and then all of my materials down here. If I really felt like customizing this a lot, I'd probably move my main viewport so that it's on the right side since I am right-handed. And maybe actually it wouldn't be too difficult to do that. So let's see if I do window, well, with all the yapping out of the way, it's time to actually start working on making some art. So I've realized I realized something unfortunate about having my viewport all the way over here is that if I want to like pan the window this direction with the widget, it works great. But if I'm trying to pan the other way, I kind of hit the edge of my screen. So it only helps so much. I think you definitely end up depending on your gesture navigation a little bit, considering if you're going to be moving your viewports around a lot. It's a little bit hard to tell if it feels like I'm necessarily lacking like pen control. I think I'm kind of just getting used to the feeling of using grease pencil for this display. But like every now and then it feels like I forget that I'm working on like an Android device. Like the screen, honestly, like I'll say the main drawback is when my palm like causes a click because it's like an actual touch sensitive display. I'm gonna do a little bit of editing to change the scale of some things here, which right away the edit mode feels very, very similar to using grease pencil on PC. So this is very promising. Greg to have a little bit bigger of a head, and then we'll kind of scale them. Well, that felt very natural. That's nice. Now I'm just going to tap back up here to go to draw mode. And honestly, I'm someone that gets so used to hotkeys. And right now I'm using very minimal hotkeys. Like if I can do something by clicking a button and it only takes like 2 clicks, like that's kind of the way that I want to operate with this device. And it's probably the way that I would usually be using Blender on this kind of device. But I will say, like Blender, you can really enable yourself to do things really quickly if you have a keyboard. I have a little Bluetooth keyboard connected currently, but I'm mostly just using it for like modifier keys. So in grease pencil, a very natural thing for me is like if I draw a stroke, if I hold Control and then use the pencil tool, it actually starts activating the eraser that I had currently selected. So right now, clicking the eraser tool, it gives me eraser point, which deletes any points on grease pencil objects. But you can also get to it by holding Control. So that's mostly the kind of thing that I'm using this keyboard for. But as far as like undoing and redoing, I'm just using the tap like finger gestures, and it's working pretty well so far. I can feel some kind of a composition coming together here, something that might actually work pretty well, especially for the tools that I would like to test out for something like this. Because right now I'm looking at the clouds kind of in the background. Like I imagine this will be like a nice glowing kind of moon up here peeking through the clouds. And it would be really fun to use shader nodes to get like a noise texture to kind of look like the clouds in front of the moon back there as a separate grease pencil. For the rest of this, I think it'll be cool to render everything out with grease pencil and then use some depth to like give it a cool 3D effect. Because after all, we're in Blender. Blender enables us to do like a lot of really cool little 3D things like that. So I'm feeling good about this direction so far. I'm gonna pause the recording here and reassess my setup, and then we're going to jump back into like rendering this and kind of like feeling out the rest of this piece. Hello, I'm back, and I put a shirt on because my sweater was too sweaty, and also my tablet went to sleep while I was gone. So now we're seeing the boot menu, which shows every single time that you open the app, and it basically just walks you through some basic tutorial kind of things to help convert the Blender user interface into something that is more usable for mobile devices, which you can see here. It's outlined that there's like a little menu at the bottom that you can open up with a bunch of keyboard shortcuts and modifiers and stuff that you might need. Okay, I feel pretty happy with where the sketch is, and I think what I'd like to do is just jump into rendering these characters. It's like not too bad. I think one of the most unfortunate things I've noticed with working in here is that I always end up getting these accidental like dots that I end up having to erase later, which is not a big deal, but you know, the annoying thing would be when you don't notice them and then you like post the drawing and you just see a bunch of little dots and you're like, I didn't see those. Well, nice. Greg is looking pretty cute. Something's telling me I need to give him like a little hair that sticks out like Astro Boy. Also, the way that this hair is, it would kind of be covering up just a little bit like that. Let's actually just redraw this line so I don't have to erase something like that. That's pretty good. Are his arms ridiculously long, and do they make zero sense as to how they would attach to his torso here? Yeah, but you know what? I'm not exactly trying to get a job at Cartoon Network right now. I'm just trying to draw a little thing. I'm trying to use Blender on my tablet. That is quite a fine Jason Funderburker. It's definitely still pretty finicky using the touch controls to move the canvas around, but it's not the worst. Now we're gonna fill in with some colors. Maybe I want like a really light, nice, and now I can start coloring in here. Looks like maybe this area is not closed in, so it won't let me fill. Weird that the fill tool doesn't seem to be working how I expect it to. Doesn't work over there either. Maybe I need to increase the dilation. I can see it's calculating the gap closure. Okay, let's see if maybe, oh, stop. Huh, I wonder why it's not filling in. Oh, you know what it could be? No, it's not the shading. Oops, don't want to set the thickness to it. Not that I need the right mouse bud. Try a different material. Nope, not that. Let's try to put it on a different layer. Same layer? Nope. Doesn't do it. Oh, you know what it could be? It could be that I don't have an active frame, maybe? Oh, we have a frame. Gee willikers, what could it be, mate? Wait, is that a lock button? What is that? Oh, that just locks all my material. Well, this is a big bummer if this just doesn't work. Oh, I made a weird, oh, whoops, accidentally closed program again. Trying to find a button that would fix the fill tool. Okay, our file's still here. Everything's fine. I should probably save now though. Gee whiz, I know that the fill works because I can use the pencil tool to fill strokes in. Maybe it's just not closed? No, it doesn't matter where I do it. Why would this? What the freaking kind of horrible is this? It just makes less sense to me that it's not working because generally everything else is working phenomenal. Let's see, tool settings, brush settings, advanced, boundary. Wow, that's cool. It shows you all the different, that's cool. Inverted, what is inverted? Normal. Let's lower the precision a bit, see what happens. Evidently that does, yes. Cursor has nothing. Cursor is a drop down that says nothing. Well, I'm stumped. I don't know why my fill tool doesn't want to work, man. Not the pen. Not that I need to write. Yeah, left mouse button would be filling right now. Maybe I should try it on a different grease pencil object. I mean, I can draw the fill with the pencil, and I wouldn't mind doing that, but I just can't believe that the fill tool is like broken like this. It's just not working anywhere. So I looked into it, and evidently the fill tool is in fact broken, and it's not necessarily just this port of Blender where the fill tool is broken, but it happens to be every version of Blender 3.6 that is running on ARM64 architecture. Evidently something about the way that it was written does not work, and there was never a fix implemented for 3.6, and even if there was, like, you know, it would be up in the air whether or not this version of the Blender port would have it. So that's a little unfortunate for now, but you know, this is still a pretty early project. I think it's still in alpha, and like, I think this is only like the 5th release that this developer has put out for it. So who knows, maybe the fill tool could see some appreciation that it could get fixed. Or maybe the Blender Foundation will eventually pick up the mantle of this project, and we'll have access to some of the better updated grease pencil functionality for when the Blender Foundation puts out an official release of Blender for Android. For now, I feel like it would be remiss for me not to try to finish this without the bucket tool nonetheless. So I'm just gonna put the pedal to the metal. Oh, but it would have been nice. It would have been nice if it would just work. Instead, I shall be manually coloring in all of these shapes. But you know, it could be worse. I get to make fun little art the majority of my time, and if that ain't worth getting out of bed for every now and then. Well, this is taking quite a long time to get used to this little workflow, but I'm pretty happy with how it's coming out. It's actually, this feels like it's forming into like a piece that I would be very happy to share with everyone. So for that reason, I'm going to finish it up. I think I'm going to take another little break and then come back around to it once I've calmed down from the fill tool not working and having to fill in all these shapes by hand. Okay, I think I'm pretty happy with how the grease pencil has gone so far. There's definitely some post-processing things that I'll want to do to give it a little bit more grit and texture, but right now this is not bad at all, especially for just being on a tablet. Like, we had the limitation of that we couldn't use the bucket tool that currently is not working. I spent quite a bit of time trying to find a solution to the bucket tool not working in the current build, and I saw many problems that people had with ARM64 processors not working with the bucket tool, even up to like 4.0 in Blender. And I think most of the Blender forums I found said that it should be fixed in the current version of Blender that this was ported from, but you know, who knows what kind of stability issues you run into with a Android port. So yeah, all that said, it's been pretty smooth, been pretty nice. I was able to use masks to create some shadows and light effects on the background. I was able to handle a lot of different materials, and those all seem pretty rock solid. And I think we have like 6 different Blender objects all handling all of these grease pencil strokes and stuff. So with the grease pencil portion out of the way, I think what I want to try to do now is see how it handles shader nodes and see if I can create like a cloudy gradient texture for the background using shader nodes. So I have not tried this at all yet. We're going to see how well it works. I'm just going to open up a new layout scene so that I can have decent control over the 3D, and we are getting lots of glitchiness here, unfortunately. Does not seem to matter what view I'm in. These are, okay, if we're in the X-ray mode, it works okay. So let's just add a plane, and I'm going to rotate it 90, scale it up a bit, and let's just send it to the back and then see what it looks like from our camera. Scale it up a little more, bring it up, boom. Okay, we've got a plane back there now. Now let's go open a shading tab. Oh, I'm realizing workspaces might actually be kind of horrible for this. Okay, but nonetheless, we ball. Let's make a new shader. Oh, I hope that this version of Eevee is going to be able to handle all this all right. Well, immediately we get a really nice looking noise texture. So then let's run it through a color ramp. Wow, wait, actually, shader nodes in here actually feel really good. Wow. Oh man, this is so responsive. This is way smoother than I thought it was going to be. It's a little flashy and glitchy, but not too bad at all. Wow. And that's already looking quite nice and cloudy. Now we're going to see how it handles when I bring in a mix color node. The idea is we're going to give it a screen. I don't have Node Wrangler, so we're going to have to do this the old-fashioned way of manually creating all these nodes. Texture, coordinate. Oh, there we go. Oh, there we go. Actually, I was confused. This looks great. Now let's get a brightness contrast node and set it right there. This is looking quite nice, though I think what could look really cool is if I add another pass of clouds that would appear in front of this like gradient effect, you know? Like, ooh, that could look really neat. So let's just duplicate this and bring it forward a bit, multiply it, and then we should be able to add a transparent node. Okay, I added a sky texture on accident. Transparent BSDF. Man, the fact that I'm doing shader nodes on an Android device right now is kind of awesome. Mix shader. Boom, boom, and then we'll just plug this one in, and then this is going to go to our output. Okay, nice. Now we're going to get a new noise texture. It's quite difficult navigating this viewport without a mouse though. We're going to use a color ramp. It's quite low resolution, which makes it pretty difficult to tell exactly what I'm doing with these shader nodes. That's a little unfortunate. Let's add another color ramp here. You know, and I really should be more sparing with these nodes because this could get out of hand. But I kind of want to add like a yellowy kind of texture to these foreground clouds. Just, well, maybe like a blue, just to make them look a little darker, like storm clouds. And then we're going to add a mapping node here as well. And we'll just scale it up on the x-axis a bit. Well, actually scale it down on the x-axis, like 0.2. Okay, it's getting to the point that it's hard for me to tell what I'm doing with this. Oh, I don't know. Maybe a smarter Blender user would just hit render here and call this one just about done. I think I'll bring it into Photoshop to do a little bit of touch up on giving it some texture and stuff. But I think that amount of shader nodes is just enough for me. I don't know that I'm going to be able to clean it up any more than that. So I think I'm going to call this part of it done. So if I hit, well, first of all, let's save. It's been like 20 minutes since I saved. I'm going to render image, and oh, we got a render. Dude, this looks awesome. What do you know? I really like how the little shader node thing came out in the background too. I think that adds a lot. That's nice. That's tasteful. Okay, Well, let's save this now. I have no idea how to get it out of Blender if I save it. Yeah, untitled PNG. I think that's an apt name for this image. Well now, okay, so we can hit close, open cached render, save it. I don't, edit externally. What does that mean? Okay, that doesn't do anything. Yeah, let's just close that now. Let's go see if we can't track down that image we just rendered. Internal storage, Android, data, nope. Media, not in here. Oh, there's a Blender. Nope, nothing there. Is it in here? Oh, we're getting warmer. Oh, there it is. Oh, heck yeah. Oh, wait, I closed it. Let's just always open it like that. Wow. Bet you didn't think I could find the image in my my operating system then, did you? You didn't think I could? You didn't think I'd be able to do it, but it actually looks quite good. I like how this came out. It was fun to make. You'll notice I do have random little dots and strokes that I accidentally drew with my palm, but it's not bad. It's not. It was my first time using this little program on my tablet, and it, you know, I think you can make some decent little doodles with it. There's a couple other things that I want to try out with this here. So I think what I'd like to see if I can't manage in some capacity is to get a little animation rendered here. So what I'm going to do first is, while we're in object mode, I'm going to grab Wort, and we're going to give Wort just a little noise modifier, which gets pretty wonky and wild. But this is basically going to add like a little jitter to wiggle the lines around. And as long as you don't overdo it, it looks quite nice, in my opinion. And then we'll hit Control L and copy modifiers from Greg, and then we should be able to do the same thing here. And then might as well do it on these background elements as well. Now let's add a empty. Just gonna spawn right there. And then if we go back over to a window where we have this compositor, I should be able to just grab my camera, hold shift, and drag it. Oh my gosh, it's just that easy. Wow, ain't that nice? This is gonna look really nice if I put a little, just a little bit of a, what do you call it? There's a little something I want to put on it, and it escapes me when I'm trying to think of what you call it. A vignette. A vignette is what you might call it, or a vignette. There's people say things however they want, and you know what? I don't care. I don't care how you want to say it. Vignette, who do I care? Why would I care? I don't care. And then add 100 frames, put it right about there for funsies, and then bring it back around town, and then we'll make sure that we end up back where we started by the end of it. I just need the empty, please. Thank you. I'll just copy that keyframe back over here, and then let's kind of evenly space these roughly. This rotation should be at 0. Yes, it is. Okay. I was confused because I was zoomed in all the way. So we get that little camera motion. That's not bad. Another thing I wanted to try out was a rim light effect. If we go into rendered mode, hopefully it doesn't crash. Oh, it didn't. Splendid. Though it is getting exceptionally buggy. I might not have much time left. Oh, this is getting bad. I feel bad playing this for people. It's gonna be pretty intense to look at, unfortunately. A little tough on the eyes, but now we have a nice little rim light on our characters. Isn't that nice? And now I'm also going to need to scale up our clouds back here a little bit. So, oh my gosh, this is getting tough. This is getting tough to look at. Let's switch back to bounding box mode. Oh, whoops, accidentally scaled every single thing up. With that scaled up, I think we're pretty much set. It's quite glitchy in the viewport, but I'm thinking we should be able to render the animation. So let's make sure our render format is all good. And I'll do that by going over here to output. We'll see if we can't get an FFmpeg render at high quality, perhaps, maybe even. Now this is 250 frames that I'm asking it to render now, and it looks like it's going incredibly slow. But mind you, I'm rendering with shader nodes, and like 6 grease pencil objects with like 17,000 points or something. And it's on a little Android tablet that Blender was not made to run on. Though it seems like it's really struggling now. Oh, nope, I can see it going. It's going. I will check back what it's done. Oh my gosh, my tablet went to sleep because it was taking so long to render, and it has now potentially lost the render. I don't know that the codec actually got to go through. I don't know that it saved it. Oh no. Oh, oh, what a travesty. Okay, well let's just go see if we can find it in the files, because we were just here with the image, so it should be under videos. There's one item. Okay, we do have a video. Will it play? Let's see, where does it cut off? Oh wait, I think it actually rendered all the way. Wait, that's awesome. I recognize the irony now that I have brought the render back into Blender, but now on my PC, so that I can do the post-processing that I wanted to do on it. But you know what? We're doing it. Okay, you can't stop me. I'm an adult. I can do what I want. I want to put a little vignette thing on this. Transparent, and then we'll mix shader with that, and then we'll use this, and we'll make sure it's plugged into the right spot. And then we'll just take this and shrink it just a little bit. Grab a little paper texture. Oh, what do you know? It's a thing of beauty. Let's just see what a render looks like. Oh, that looks great. Oh, that looks nice. That's not bad at all. And that is a wrap on using Blender on Android. I realize I've cheated at the end here by compositing it on my desktop, but I wasn't gonna be able to access any of my texture assets or anything in the compositor inside of Blender. I think I could set it up if I just like move them all into the dedicated directory for Blender, but it's getting late. It's like 11 p.m. at this point. I'm trying to be done with this, so I just moved it onto my desktop to add the little post-processing effects. But for all of the grease pencil and the shader nodes and the little background and everything, like I illustrated it all and modeled it and set it all up directly on the Android port of Blender on my tablet. I can definitely see myself using this again when I'm out and about with my tablet, like at a cafe or at an airport or operating a motor vehicle. I would not recommend this if you are like trying to get into Blender and you're like, oh, I have an Android tablet, I'll load it up on there. I think right now I'd say kill your time doing something else right now. Maybe, you know, working in Krita or Heavy Paint or some other like illustration program dedicated. I only have so much confidence that this is going to be maintained as well as whatever the Blender Foundation eventually ends up doing with Blender for Android. It's possible they might adopt this port and just, you know, spruce it up and you know, give it the full Blender treatment. But until you hear a little bit more news from the Blender Foundation about how those ports are going and when they can expect to have like a decent version running on Android, I wouldn't recommend this for if you're like just getting into Blender and you're excited that you could use it with your Android device. For me, I really like working with Android devices. I use it with the game dev stuff. Like you can run Godot on Android. Like there's just an editor that automatically like works with Android, and it's not perfect, but like I can use it with a little Bluetooth keyboard when I'm on a car ride or something like that. Like I think that's really cool. So it's exciting to see Blender getting a little bit more attention for mobile devices, because honestly, stuff like Grease Pencil, it feels really good working on a touchscreen. And I have a lot of confidence that it's going to get better. Whatever the Blender Foundation does with it is especially going to get better. It was a bummer that I couldn't use the fill tool currently. I'm really hoping that somehow that gets fixed. I think they're going to be updating this Android port to Blender 4X for the next update to the application. So hopefully that fixes the bucket tool issue. I could definitely see myself making some little fun looping animations on my tablet if that bucket tool gets fixed, because it's quite finicky having to draw in the fill effect by hand. You can see that it caused some spots on the render to not line up 100% perfect. But in general, I'm really happy with how it came out. It was a lot of fun to work on, and I hope that you guys enjoyed seeing me fight my way through this program. And I definitely recommend trying out Blender if you've never used Blender, ideally on like a laptop or a desktop or something with a drawing tablet if you want to use Grease Pencil. It's so well supported on Windows and Mac OS. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. I'm hoping to make some more YouTube videos here soon. So definitely subscribe if you're interested in Blender stuff or my art or whatever stuff. I'll do anything. I'll do it all. I'll do anything for the like, man. Being a human being is so embarrassing. Like sometimes I look my dog in the eye and I can tell that my dog is like, what the heck are you doing, man?